How's it going, guys? Welcome to Raw Reviews Live. I'm Chase Lee. I'm here to review another selection from the Dallas International Film Festival, and that would be Being Evil. That is right. It's the documentary on the most infamous daredevil of all time, Evel Knievel. So let me read you the plot synopsis for it. It is a documentary on his life. An eccentric daredevil, a brash pop icon, and a real-life American superhero to many in the 1970s are just a few ways to describe Evel Knievel. In Being Evil, Academy Award-winning film director Daniel Jung teams up with actor-producer Johnny Knoxville to share the complex, epic story of Knievel's life, giving audiences a rare glimpse into this bigger-than-life legend and the influence he left on our culture. And so that will do it from right there. And so, sorry. I lost it. So it is directed by Daniel Jung. Holy crap, I'm terrible with names. But I've never seen any of his other documentaries, but apparently he's done some pretty big ones. And so I was actually really just excited to see Evel Knievel's story and like how his life was, because all we know from the outside looking in is like, oh, he was a daredevil that, jumped his motorcycle across, 15 buses at one point, and he would crash occasionally. That's all we knew about him. So in this documentary, Daniel Jung, the director, really, we got to see his whole life. And I really admired that because we got to see his childhood and how he was actually a little daredevil when he was a child. And, when he was growing up, he started doing more riskier and riskier things. Like he would take his motorcycle out and do wheelies on the street. And people were just like, oh, dear God, what's that? And, they didn't even know what a wheelie was back then. And he comes from the small town Butte, Michigan. Is that where it's at? Butte, Michigan. So all the Evel Knievel fans watching this are probably going to be really angry at me for – is it? Yeah, I think that's it. But anyways, it's a small town. So there's not really celebrities or whatnot. And, this documentary portrays Evel as like well, first of all, his real name is Robert. But I'll get to the whole Evel thing in just a second. But he's a very rambunctious child, and like he steals a lot and stuff, and he's actually kind of a thief and portrayed in this movie and stuff. And people admit that in the interviews. They're just like, yeah, he was a crook, man. He kind of stole stuff. He was very swift. He could persuade people, and like he was a really good salesman, but he could also con people at the same time. Like he's a really fascinating character. And then he started doing, like I said, stunts and whatnot. And, the first stunt he did was like over a few cars. Like he would, run his motorcycle up and stuff. And, he was kind of portrayed as like this fearless person. And, a lot of kids that grew up watching him on television, including Johnny Knoxville, which is one of the producers on this film and one of the interviewees, he said that like when he watches, Evel Knievel, like you're kind of in a trance because you don't know if he's going to die. You don't know if he's going to wipe out. You don't know if he's going to make it. Like, and then when he does wipe out and he stands back up or whatever, and he just gives a thumbs up, and it's like, dude, this guy's like a legend. Like he is essentially a badass. Like he is a hero to many kids because, he's invincible. And I think that that it's a good role model to look up to, but at the same time, we kind of reveal in his life that, he was a player. He cheated on his wife. He, was a terrible person to people. He's very rude. He's very egocentric. He was very like power hungry. And so there's a lot more depth to his character than what we know. And I think that's what I really appreciate about this documentary is we get to peel back that, stuntman mask, and we got to see the real human being of Evel Knievel and the way he thought and stuff, and how this guy was absolutely nuts in what he did, but he was entertaining to watch, and he was aspiring to many kids. And he had a toy line and stuff, and kids could play with the Evel Knievel motorcycle toy, and like they could pretend like they were doing these stunts and stuff. So he was a big influence on children. But when you see interviews and stuff with the news outlets and whatnot, he was kind of rude. He was kind of an asshole. And so there's a lot of stuff going on. Like, he drinks a lot, and he just, he was never really loved as a kid, and he kind of felt like he needed that attention and that love from the fans and from just women in general. Because, like I said, he cheated on his wife many times. He was kind of a pimp. Sometimes I wish I could aspire to be Evel Knievel in that sense, but anyways, yeah, we got to see like the human Evel Knievel, not the stunt man. And the stunts were very cool to watch. And the first one to ever get him like super famous was the one that he did over the Caesar's Palace fountain. And it's the infamous shot where like he's coming down the other side and like he hits it at a weird angle and like he flies up and like he kind of tumbles over and he nails the back of his head and his back on this concrete. He skids for like 60 yards or something like that. And this, I don't think it was 60 yards, but I mean, it was a very long, like, time to be skidding on freaking concrete ground. So, he became like super famous after that. And like he was definitely an icon for sure. And he got lots of money and he was just super famous. But I think deep down you could see that he was broken and he was very fearful of everything that he was doing. And I think going back to his childhood and how he wasn't really loved by I think it was his dad. You could tell that like he really wanted to be loved by people, and he felt like no one loved him, and he felt like, getting that 15 minutes of fame or whatever would do that for him, but it actually made him worse, and his ego was driven up through the roof, and he just really became more of an asshole in his later years, and it got to his head. But anyways, that's just the long kind of story and what I thought about the documentary of Evel Knievel and the way it was directed and the way it was handled, showing his whole life and showing that he was a real broken human being. And at the very end, like when we see his funeral and stuff and it's an open casket, I think because Johnny Knoxville pinpointed that perfectly. He's like, we saw a dead icon on stage, and I think most people would sit back and go, like, he's just human like the rest of us. Because he died from a lung cancer, which is really odd because this guy is infamous for, like, breaking every bone in his body and, like, really mangling up his body, and he dies from lung cancer. Like, it's just really strange. But it seemed like from the interviews and stuff, he led a good life. He had, good friends and good supporters around him, and people loved him, and he was a kooky character. He was really funny. Like, Evel Knievel was very, like, he was sarcastically funny. And so I was just like, I didn't even know about that side of him. So it was really cool to look. But, like, you could tell, like, his kids loved him and people loved him. It's just he had issues like everyone else. Like, he was just a little bit brash with people. He treats people like garbage. Like, so yes, there are a lot of bad aspects of Evel Knievel, but there's a lot of good things as well. And so I think that's what you can take from it is, like, he's a human being. He did some very bad things, but at the same time, he still inspired a lot of people. And it inspired, the X Games and, skateboarding and BMXing and snowboarding and doing all those, like, crazy stunts and stuff, like creating people like Tony Hawk or like Matt Hoffman or Shaun White. Evel Knievel he set the precedent for extreme sports. He really did. So that's what he's going to leave behind in his legacy. So the director really nailed this on the head. I think this is a very good documentary showing his entire life. Acting, you can't judge a documentary on acting. It's real life people. Cinematography, I was actually really blown away on how much footage they got. They got some really cool footage. Like, they got footage from, like, almost every jump that he did, and they got footage from one of the last things he did, and they got footage from tons of interviews from, like, the Johnny Carson show and, like, when he was in his older years, like in 2003, and they got some childhood photos, and I was really impressed on how much data and information they got from this documentary, and it turned out to be very, like, gorgeous to look at because it was like kind of like going into this time capsule and like seeing this really cool archive footage that no one has ever seen before. That's what I really like about documentaries that kind of show old footage, because you feel like you're kind of like in the club and you're like seeing this like exclusive footage. So Cinematography, I thought was really well. And, you know, for documentaries, like, I know it's a really, like, minor thing, but, like, you kind of have to judge it on their interview shots because that's the only shots they actually shoot for the most part, unless they do reenactments. And I really like the interview shots. Like, they shot it in front of, like, a theater screen, and it was, like, on the people being interviewed were, like, on a theater stage, and, like, they're really cool, like, you know, depth of field shots where, like, the person would be, like, here in the front, and, like, you could see, like, the nice 3D, like, expansion in the background leading off into the corner. Like, it just, I don't know, I like the interview shots. They're very colorful. They're very bright. And like I said, they had a movie screen behind the people. So, like, as they were talking, they would play that footage, what they were talking about on the screen. So I thought that was really unique and kind of different of what normally documentaries do. So good job on that. It's good. It's good eye candy. So editing, it's an hour and 40 minutes. I mean, I didn't have any problems with the link. It kind of dragged on just a hair for me. I think it was like around the halfway point. I was like, can we like wrap this up? Because, like, I feel like they, I don't know, kind of honed on a few things way too long. But, like, it's not like anything that, like, it's gonna, like, really damage your viewing experience of this movie. Because I think it's a really well done documentary. You know, peeling back the layers of this icon, this superhero, this daredevil, this badass, and really showing just how disturbed he was, and, like, just showing a real human being. And I really wish more documentaries would be like that. I really wish, like, they would take Walt Disney, do his biopic, do a documentary on him, and really show some of the evil that he went through. I think that's what makes the documentary great, is when you can show both sides of them. Don't show them all bad. Well, unless you're doing a documentary on Hitler, then you can totally slam him. But even then, they would probably put some humanistic things in there to show you that he was human just like everyone else. He just had major issues. So I think that's what makes a great documentary on a specific person. You show both sides. You show their whole life. Do not shy away. This documentary did not do that. I was very entertained. It was very interesting to see his whole life unfold. I enjoyed it a lot. But I mean, it's not like like the greatest documentary ever made, but it's a very good, solid documentary. I'll give it an 8 out of 10, a strong 8. That's a very good score. I'm not bashing on this movie whatsoever. It's just I've seen more documentaries and films in this festival to where, like, they're better than this movie, but I still had a lot of fun with it. It's very interesting. 8 out of 10 for Being Evil. If you can catch this in the States, in the U.S., or if you're a foreign watcher right now, like, if you can find Being Evil and you really were fascinated by this character, this documentary will really satisfy that appetite for it. So Being Evil was pretty good, man. It was just a nice documentary at the festival. So have you seen Being Evil, or have you even heard of it? Comment in the place, roll on my face, and let me know. And as always, thanks for watching my reviews live. I'm Chase Lee, and tune in next time for whatever I review next, which will be plenty more Dallas International Film Festival selections. So let me go and play my outro music. You guys have a good day, good night. You guys are awesome. Goodbye.